happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com, and this is Disconnect to Connect, one word conversations. Now, there's two things going on for me that I wanted to share with you. And first is that it's a celebration, right? It's this is our my 50th episode, and I'm celebrating 50 episodes. And the challenge with that is that there are so many things that happen in my life that I just don't take time to celebrate. And so I just wanted to mark this time that it's not just my commitment to myself and commitment to the audience here, but just really just staying in the conversation. There's a lot of things that are happening in our world and in our life that I believe that the more that we stay in conversation, the better things happen. And so, when I was putting together this banner to put up, Dave Chappelle, came up, and I was like, I am not doing a Dave Chappelle impersonation to do that. When he does like Rick James or something. I don't know. So, but it just went through my head. So, but that was fun. So yeah. So this is the 50th show. So I'm excited about that. The other thing is that I was born on a Thursday. And one challenge that I have for myself is that I always, or many times, I heavily schedule my Thursdays. So I feel like there's a lot of things that I should do or can do on Thursday. And since today is Thursday, there's a lot going on. So, I get to have this wonderful conversation with the word being go. And then I have an important conversation at 5 o'clock today where the word is race. And at 8 o'clock tonight, I also have another conversation, and the word is ready. So from Kara in at 5 o'clock with race and Precious, tonight at 8 with ready and a lot of recap of a lot of other things. It's a very busy day. So I'm just really excited about today and about the conversation. And let's bring up our word, and so we can bring up our guests so we can have a conversation. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on 50 days of doing this. It's amazing. It's a great achievement.
Well, well. Thank you very much. It's a lot. It's really kind of amazing actually, because there's a lot of ideas that I have that don't make it to 50 days, right? Right? Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the fact that this did is amazing, and I'm excited. So this is the part of the show where I invite my guests to introduce themselves any way it feels comfortable to them.
Thank you. Well, thank you again for having me. My name is Marisa Goudy, and I am a story healer and a writing coach and a
Mm.
magic maker. And as I was telling you before we came on air, I'm a mom who's alone in a house for the first time in 2.5 months because they went out for ice cream. And so I'm deeply grateful to you for that, for being one reason to say, no, really, this one's live and I can't do it from my closet like I do lots of conversations because I'm on camera. Go for ice cream.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Wear your
Oh,
masks and
that's
go for ice
great.
cream. Yeah.
Right. So the word go. So how is that landing for you? Right. It's
it was a perfect opportunity. Like, I invite you all to go. So it's that
Right.
sense of, I appreciated that deeply. Um, and I love how a two-letter word can be so heavy and complicated and bring up so
Right.
much paradox in it, because I think we're um in that. I mean, I kept thinking of song lyrics, as I knew this word was coming up.
Hmm.
Like, I kept hearing, like, should I stay or should I go now? I'm thinking of Let It Go.
Right.
I'm thinking of
Wow.
all these different ways in which we're invited to be in both that movement and, like, yeah, let's go for it. Like,
Right.
I have a poster behind me that says
Right.
progress, right? Which side is, like, it's
Right.
about going somewhere. And
Right.
there's that
Right.
value of stillness. There's that value of the pause. How do we balance
Right.
the two?
Wow. No, that's great. It's when I like started unpacking this word for myself and wanted to have it within this conversation, most of the times it was a part of, something else, like, let go,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
or or something. And just the part of the movement, just kind of owning that, and just kind of the process, the process of going, and everything. And it was, it's like an invitation and a command for me at the same
Mm.
time,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, depending on how I'm feeling, or or what's going, how I'm showing up, it's how I receive it, you know.
Hmm.
And it's just really, to stand alone. And I love you said the stillness and the pause, of,
Hmm.
go, and just really looking at, there is progress in the slightest movements, basically just in our breath, and sometimes, for me, that being still and just, taking a breath, it allows me to go. It allows me to to begin again, to kind of move. And it's like, sometimes I just don't appreciate that.
It's so, well, of course, because breath is pedestrian, breath is mundane. Oh, I do that all the time.
Right.
I want to go on a big adventure. I need to challenge
Right.
myself and do something that I've never done before. And of course, how many breath we've taken, countless breaths in a lifetime. It's hard
Right.
to be in that moment and saying, oh, right, in this single space, immense movement and new possibility could happen, because it hasn't happened yet.
Right.
Anything could happen after. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it is. I'm trying to figure out, for myself, and so I'll just ask you as well while I'm working this out for myself. Is there any way that, go has kind of stopped you?
Mm.
That it is that, that feeling, or something that, I guess, the pressure of
Mhm.
go, that just kind of paralyze you. Have you ever had
Yeah,
that feeling?
that's such a good question. And I really read it in a sort of masculine and feminine sort of way of being and doing things.
Hmm.
Because I've
Okay.
been home for 10 years raising kids. I, worked up until my youngest daughter was 8.5 months old. My mother died, a whole series of situations happened, a job I was unhappy with. I decided to go, and I decided to stay home.
Okay.
And that was a deeply
Right.
empowered choice that I made, and one that was really born of great pain. Um, and so
Mm.
then I needed to stay. I needed to mother. I needed to write. I needed to get out. I mean, I worked in academia. It was a beautiful job in many ways. It was just not the right place for
Mm.
me. Um,
Right.
but in staying home for that period, it was then this sense of discovery. And this was a sense of,
Mm.
well, how much can I learn? What can I, how can I build a business? How can I become an entrepreneur in this process? And in that, listening to lots of different voices, it's in the podcasters.
Right.
I've long been in the copywriting and, like, marketing, holistic businesses world, have moved away from that because I realized it wasn't the place for me. But it was listening to a
Right.
lot of voices of people who were more mobile. They were going to conferences, they were going all these different places. I'm home raising babies,
Right.
trying to figure out building a business and a career for myself purely online. And so I started to
Right.
hear invitations and or commands to go get out and do that, go network, go to these meetings as a, well,
Right.
that must be nice for some people. I just can't. I have to
Hmm.
stay home and be all the different things that everyone needs me to be in this
Right.
house and to try to be an entrepreneur. And
Right.
I can look back now and recognize like, oh, right, that was my own situation at that point. That was kind of it was a castle of my own making. I kind of built myself a tower and got myself trapped inside of it. I didn't have to do it that
Right.
way, but um, it took a long time to get to the point where like, oh, get out there and go do things outside became something that was really a positive invitation and not something that I would meet with, no, I can't.
Right.
Uh,
No, I totally get that. It's like it's the societal pressures, the expectation of ourselves and others. I say many times it's our labels that come with the expectations, and the way we should show up, and so there is this feeling that if I'm not going, right? If
mhm.
I am not like visibly going in somebody's eyes, it's like you're on the move,
Yeah,
type of thing. You're doing nothing, right? And it's just like there's a lot going on here, and and it's even sometimes the image of the duck on top of the water and the feet that are going. I
hmm
feel like that there is. I want to get to my going is not this, I look like I'm calm, but all this stuff is happening underneath, but
right.
I'm just in a flow of my life. I am
Mm-hmm.
just moving. And there may be times where I need to underwater or something, or I need to get out on land and boogie, right? Or something. Keep it moving. But
Right.
there is that. There's like no pressure. It is just there is I subscribe to a be do have type of lifestyle. That's
Mm-hmm.
something that I really try to work in. The more that I understand who I be and how I be, then there's a doing in my being. The
Mm-hmm.
more that there's that understanding of my being, then I can do, and then I can have the life that I want. And I
Yeah.
think too often in the past, I would get so caught up in the doing, the
Mm-hmm.
going, and then it's like, who am I? Right?
Yeah.
What am I doing? What am I doing? What is
Right.
what is this? And then I have like no sense, of purpose or intention and all that other kind of stuff
Mm-hmm.
because I was so caught up in the going or the doing.
Right. And the performance and the sense of if I'm busy, then it'll must mean that I'm productive. Right. If I'm working really
Right.
hard and I'm really stressed out and I never stop, I'll get a gold star and I'll win.
Right.
I don't really know what
Right.
race I'm running or what game I'm playing, but I know if I work hard enough and I'm just miserable enough and I push myself just hard enough,
Right.
I'll win the thing. But I don't have time to even think about what I'm
Right.
trying to win because I'm so busy
Right.
going.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And
And
when I hear
and
you
it's
talk
like,
about the, sorry,
go ahead.
when
No,
you're
go
talking
ahead.
about
No.
the thinking about like the duck on the water, like it makes me think so much about
Right.
integration and authenticity and those knowing those are other words so many of us strive for. When you're trying
Right.
to look like you're very pieced out on top of the water and underneath you're constantly flailing or just feeling
Right.
like you can never rest, that's really
Right.
seems to speak to that sense of like, wait, that's the opposite of what so many of us are striving for and hoping to create in our lives.
Right. Right. No, I get that, in creating, I went from an environment, I went from coaching, no, I'm sorry, consulting to coaching. And how I
Hmm.
break and how I break that up for myself is my consulting was for the organization. I was
Right.
more concerned about the organization, and I was, hey, let's put together a system to help your people work better.
Mm.
And when I realized that that really wasn't lighting me up,
Yeah.
because I would, have these glossy recommendations that we spent, months on, and then I would go back and I was like, well, how's that working? And they're like, oh yeah, we haven't had time to get to that yet. And it's like, you
Right.
know what? I want to coach people because I care more about the people in this
Mm.
organization. The
Yeah.
more that I can see what's going on or not going on with the people here, then we can have the people make the systems that will make a difference in this organization. And it was for me, and I have that connection within this conversation is because before I was just going and going in this technology consulting type of thing because I knew it, I wanted to do it, and it was almost destroying me
Mm.
how I was showing up because I felt that I had no connection to people. I had no
Mm.
con- you know
Yeah.
I was so committed to systems and trying to making systems work better. I was losing sight of people. And I think one, I believe that's how I was running my life. I
Mm.
was running my life of just, hey, I just need to work well in this system and everything will be fine.
Right.
And so on that, at the, I guess this is an animal show, right? On that, the hamster on the wheel, right? Just kind of doing that. And it's like, hey, that's what we do around here. I was losing myself and I had no awareness of myself. I had no awareness of the people that I said that I wanted to help.
Hmm.
I had to get off of that. And
Yeah.
so now creating these coaching opportunities, I'm still fighting the system. How can I be there for the people and basically fight the system of just trying
Right.
to just stay in that, and going from there. I hope that made sense, but that is what going has
Yeah.
kind of shown up for me so much.
I really hear you. That sense of yeah, being in service to the individual and that, urge inside to be, to do, to have, versus the
Hmm.
system, the organization's urge is for progress, for profit, for bottom line.
Right.
And, oh, right, people are important and we can lose track of that along the way. I mean, my work
Right.
now has been so individually based for the last 10 years as I'm working to coach writers and working with people who are thinking about sovereignty and their individual sovereignty and how they can be of service in the world. That
Right.
sense of, even as I'm focused on the individual, we can sometimes lose track of that when we push ourselves
Right.
to go for the sake of something that seems bigger than us. Like, working with a writer, I'm
Right.
just going to say, forget it. I don't want to worry about, I call it the self-focused first draft. It's that first version you put on the page that's incredibly messy and has all of the feelings and the things you could never publish. That's the stuff
Right.
that feels in many ways, um, it may feel indulgent. It may feel like it's the pre-work you want to skip, because that's their urge to
Right.
go and get to the finished draft and get the thing out there
Right.
that will help, build the business, will speak to people, will help build your platform. And when you
Hmm.
ignore that internal work and you try to go too fast, you end up skipping some of the most important pieces. And it sounds like there's a corollary there in terms of your work one on one with coaching the individual versus let's get to that big
Right.
picture real fast and create the best
Right.
possible spreadsheet for the best possible plan to get to the best possible outcome 6 months from now.
Right. Yeah. No, the first book that I read this year was Transitions by William Bridges, I think it was.
Mhm.
And he talks about, and I've mentioned this a couple times in my shows, but I think this is when I think of go, I think this comes up for me. There is this, I don't know if it's a formula or just kind of a framing of, you have an ending, you have a neutral, and you have a new beginning. So, and
Mm,
those are three stages.
mm,
And too often we miss, we try to, something ends and we try to skip over the neutral part and just go to the
right,
new beginnings.
right,
And it's
right.
that pressure to go to the next,
Hmm.
get
Right.
somewhere else. And that, like you were talking about before, that pause, that neutral, not, will give us access to how we're feeling about what just ended,
Mhm.
what is going on, what's possible. Have no intentionality of anything else new. That's when we're able to discover. And because of go, that command of go, so often in my life, it feels like I got to do something now. I gotta,
Hmm.
it is something just ended. I have to be doing something,
Right. Right.
or people are gonna say, and I think that's why, there's this, in our culture, this is, oh, you have to find yourself, right? It's like,
Mm,
you know, but no one, has a problem that how we lose ourselves. We can lose
mhm,
ourselves so quickly in
right.
our work, in relationships, and just all kind of things. But we have a problem when we have to find ourselves, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think the more that we take those moments to go within and do the
Mm,
the work and do some work, then we can go fully into our life,
yeah.
into our relationships, into to things, and it's all go. It's all
Hmm.
all of it. But
Right.
but our attention is a part of that.
Yeah, and it's almost it's the tone of voice, it's the emphasis, it's the way we want to hold go. I mean, like any other word, right? So
Right.
often it's really
Right.
that sense of, well, how did you say that? Because go within is
Right.
a deeply powerful phrase, and it's in many ways the opposite of just go. And so
Right.
it's funny, we talk about these words. I mean, I deal in words for a living, and I'll know all too well what it is to talk about a word until it's rendered meaningless. And in that
Right.
process, you open it up to all the other meanings that it has. And so it's
Right.
just to underline how great this project is and how wonderful it is to talk through all this. But the thing I was thinking of when you're that process of the way, like I grew up at the ocean, the process of the wave crashes, it has to draw back, and there's really a pause before it crashes again. And in recognizing that being the way of the ocean, which is, there's more water than there is land on this planet. If there's anything we could learn from, it would be that process of this enormous body that's so holding all of us. How can we
Right.
go like the water? It's, brings us to go with the flow, which is not just that endless sense of a river. It's that the ocean does this and then it does this and it pauses and
Right.
it does it again.
Right. Wow.
And that just it brings us back to the breath too, because that so much is the movement of the breath and going with the flow of the breath.
Right. Wow. It's Oh boy, I just really, I'm really, what's coming clear for me right now is that the pressure of movement,
Mm.
it it is, um it's like self-imposed,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I think for me, because there's a number of people on this project that that I'm on with, when we're conversations, it's like, well, what are you going to do next? How are you going to monetize this? How are you going to do,
Mm.
it's like,
Mm.
whoa, I'm
Yeah.
just in this conversation now.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
started this conversation. I enjoy this conversation. I'm loving connecting with my friends and packing these words. And I feel like I am a better human being because of this.
Mm.
All other things that are possible within this conversation, it's going to happen. I believe it as long as I stay in it. But the
Right.
more that I focus on going to the next or going to something like that, I will
Hmm.
lose what's happening now. And
Hmm.
I think the reason why, the beginning of the week, we were talking, our word was anxiety,
Mm.
and the reason for me that we're so anxious about life and about things is is where our presence is.
Mm.
I said to someone that I don't things don't take my presence. I give it away.
Right.
I give my present away to my fears of my past or the
Mm.
fears of my future or something else. And the more that I just it's not just going with the flow, but it is just allow, with intention. There's an intentional surrender to my life
Mm. Mm.
that causes me to really be in my life.
Yeah.
And that's with all the pressures of our society and the world and our interaction with each other, the more that we are able to just do that, the more I believe that we'll see the world that we want or we say that we want.
The world that we say that we want. I mean, that conversation is enormous and sells a million ships. Um,
Right.
and that's the difference there between so say, do,
Right.
go. I feel like there's a mix in there of how and intention as all in that same sort of flow in there. And it becomes,
Right.
I'm thinking of too is that sense of it's progress and then it's evolution. Because as you're talking about that sense of,
Right.
I think it was before, I'm not sure if now if it was before we came on air, you shared with me, someone sort of said, you said to someone, I think I want to do this thing. And you ended up doing it the
Right.
very next week, right? And you did that. So I'm
Right. The
like,
next
okay, I'm
day,
just going to,
actually. Right.
the next day, I'm sorry. Yeah. So like, okay,
Right.
I'm going to go for it. Like you instantly made
Right.
that choice instantly, but you've been percolating on it a while. And then the sense
Right.
that every day you keep moving forward and keep evolving into these conversations and
Right.
with the goal of being in the flow and with this evolution into I don't exactly know where this is going, but I'm trusting the process and that I know I need to keep doing it. That to me has a
Right.
very different texture than even progress over my shoulder. I actually have a problem with this word sometimes. I look at it and think about it in sense of, we need certainly there's the way that the Barack Obama campaign poster from 2008. There was a way in which progress is being held. It was looked at, and I appreciate it completely, and it's that context, and our relentless pursuit of progress can be something, especially at the personal level, that we can use to
Right.
really injure ourselves and to say, well, I didn't do enough today. I didn't push hard enough
Right.
today. And instead, evolution
Right.
is much less of that linear line and it's much more that sense of moving in spirals and circles and saying, how can I expand this? How can I expand myself to hold more and become more of
Right.
that a better container, a bigger cauldron rather than a railroad track that just kept going off into the horizon. I don't know where, but it's going to keep going.
Right. Yeah. I've been working within the work that I'm doing of self discovery. It's just embracing the whole and complete,
Mm.
the whole and completeness of my life, and recognize when we talk about progress of there's a lot of progress that we see and don't see.
Mm.
And there is, I remind myself, sometimes my meditation time, I just will look outside.
Mm.
And even though it looks familiar, there's a knowing that there
Yeah.
are some things different
Mm.
that I may notice or not notice by looking outside my window.
Mm.
And that's how my life is. And so the more that I hold myself to this standard of how much progress, how much movement in my life from day to moment, I miss my life
Yeah. Yeah.
because it is, there is always something. There is always, I've, you know, there is a couple weeks ago, I think I posted something when my hair was longer because I wasn't going to get my hair cut. I noticed that there was a little more gray hairs, and at first I thought, it was lint, and then it was like, oh crap, you know, it's like that awkward moment where
Hmm.
your first gray hair
Right.
is not a piece of lint, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's like I am sure it was there
Right.
before I
Hmm.
noticed it, right?
Right. Right.
And it's like now that my hair is shorter and everything, I don't see it as much, but
Right.
it's there. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Well,
so the more that I appreciate that, the more that I
mm,
can just go into that.
as a fellow GLP alum, I will tell you that my daughters call the silver ones that come through unicorn hairs. So you could just
Right.
experience it as a moment of unicorn hair and say, "Look, it's my magic showing through. Now everybody's going to
Right.
know, but that's okay. I'll claim my unicorn self."
That is great. So
Yeah.
it's like there's a part of me. Okay, I embrace that, but I don't want to see any more unicorns, right? Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll keep imagining those. They can come. They
Right.
become real
Right.
later. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. It's so the really I am like compelled from this conversation. I am compelled to see where I go today.
Mm,
What I think what is pulling me, right? Where
mm,
there is, like I said, when I started the show, there's a lot of conversations that I'm gonna be having on air and
yeah.
not on air to know. And there are some things that I've written down or that I want to make sure that I say and all that other kind of stuff. But the more that I just stay in the conversations,
Mm,
the more I will just go where
yeah.
I need to go
Right.
and trust that and be with that and sometimes that's a messy and it's awkward and it's kind of sometimes I would use the word interesting. It's an interesting endeavor that Mr. Brown, that you'll have to
Yeah.
go through. But but it but there is a level of magic. There is a level of
Mm,
power and just allowing your life. And I love how you said the evolution.
mm,
There's a and sometimes in our culture it's like the either or. There
yeah.
is evolution or there is or intentional or accident accidental or
Hmm.
whatever
Hmm.
the conversation is. But we are we miss the opportunity to embrace the evolution of our life or how
Yeah.
we're showing up within our life.
Yes.
We miss our goings, right?
Mm,
We miss our
yeah.
goings.
Yeah. Well, I often think about things and I speak of in terms of straight lines and spirals. And I think about this very specifically in helping writers go from that like big sense of possibility. It's this great mushmash of all these intersecting ideas and anything could happen. And of course, in order to to communicate, in order to get something on paper, one word at a time, one sentence at a time, we need to move all those great spirals of possibility and creativity into straight lines. And that's the only way
Right.
we're really going to be able to, communicate in our written language that we've all agreed upon and how it works, and our spoken language as well, because we can only say one word at a time. But both of those, that sense of the spirals, which I think in so many ways is that evolution, like how am I evolving as a thinker, as someone who's taking in new ideas, who's going within and understanding myself better, and then how do I do the progress, like engage in that kind of progress of going forward
Right.
word after word to communicate these ideas in order to start another conversation. in order to inspire somebody else's evolution so that they too can go through those spirals of
Hmm.
possibility and communicate themselves. And
Right.
in seeing both of those as ways of being, ways of going, it takes out some
Hmm.
of that charge. We were talking, the beginning of our conversation, I sort of shared with you how go felt like a command that made me want to shut down and say, well, I can't go. I can't do that right now. Because I was only understanding go in
Right.
one way at that point. I saw it as a judgment rather than, oh, wait, I was in spirals of evolution. I was filling journal pages. I was, making my messy beginnings. It was a very interesting
Right.
time, to say.
Right.
And
Right.
then later, like it was able to say, oh, wait, in the time, my time shifted as a mother, as just in many ways, time shifted. So I was able to go out and make progress and go out of the house and, go to camp and meet you and like all those different things that were
Right.
in my point in life, it was a big deal to leave for the weekend. It was the first
Right.
time I'd ever left my little one. So
Right.
I just love the way that we're able to hold the word in these two different and multiple different ways so that we take the judgment out of it and take the the command out of it, because I think oftentimes that's where the negativity comes in, and we just want to say, well, I don't want to, and we become
Right.
truculent teenagers, or
Right.
recluses who just want to like hide out and not have the conversation and not be able to engage.
Right. Yeah. When I look at my experience with with camp LP, I I've shared through posts that it was a gift from my future self, and
Mm,
so the first year I was once so tight that when I heard the invitation to the camp, somewhere in my being said, "This is what you need. This is what you're going. This is what we're doing." Sign. I signed up, paid for it, and all that kind of stuff.
hmm
And then like I drove from North Carolina at yeah, at the time, up to New York, and
Yep.
for all those hours in the car, I was like, "What the heck am I doing? Where am I going?" Right? Right? And it's just
Yep.
like, but it was just like there was this go. You need to go. We need to.
Yeah.
You need to be here. But but I was questioning it the whole time, and
Mm,
I don't know how many times there was. Okay, you can turn around here. We can turn around here. We can take this exit here. We don't have to make it.
right.
And but once I got on at camp and met people and
hmm
see pink unicorns walking around and all the all the things that was showing up at camp, there
hmm
was this, I was so glad that I didn't stop myself
Yeah.
from going and from being here and from being connected with people who are figuring out their own goings, right?
Yeah. Mm,
And basically giving each other space to figure that out for ourselves. And I
mm,
think that's the one thing that I love about that container and that conversation of we get to decide what is a good life.
mm,
We get to decide our goings. We
mm.
get to decide and have intentions within the flow of that. And the more that we stop that or shut down or kind of do it. Yes, there's absolutely places that we shouldn't go or kind of kind of protect ourselves from. I
Right.
understand that, and
Right.
but I think there are more places that are calling us
Mm.
and that are inviting us to go and to make a difference in than are trying to keep us out of.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so hopefully that's not Pollyanna, that I think that, that's like wishful thinking or something like that. But that's
Yeah.
just where I am.
Well, I mean, what's the alternative, right? I mean, in the work that you do, the work that I do, it's that sense of no, it's not Pollyanna-ish, but it's that sense of, what did you say? It was the world you say you want, right? And then
Right.
what do you want to do to go there and get there?
Right. Right.
And
Wow.
that's that moment of, okay, how can I go back to that sense of integrity? How can I pull all these different pieces together? Um, in order to have the inner evolution match the progress. Where I'm going in here, does it look like
Right.
where I'm going out here? Does the inside match
Right.
the outside? I mean, that's always a powerful question, right?
Right. Right. And it's like in our, I have found my inability to look inside, makes it difficult for me to see anything outside. Right.
Right.
It
Yes.
just, so the more that I'm willing to see what's inside, I can really put color to purpose to all the things that I see outside. And so I am, and that's why life has have been really come alive for me.
Mm, yeah.
And that I don't feel that I am just living somebody else's life.
Mm,
I have narrowed down my conversations, within my business and in my life really as, I encourage people to be themselves and live your life, you know?
yeah.
And I think the more that we do, and that's not, I think for an immature person,
Hmm.
that is a very selfish,
Hmm.
way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But there's a
Yeah.
maturity and an understanding that, hey, I am here for on this earth, on this
Hmm.
planet, in this consciousness for a reason.
Right.
And
Yes.
so the more that I understand that and appreciate that, I can tell my story. I
Yeah.
can, I'm living my life.
Hmm.
And so that's why I appreciate your work of helping people find their voice and discover who they are and then use it,
Right. Yeah.
and so it is, like I said, I don't know if it's goosebumps, but it's just there's just an energy and just owning my life and helping
Hmm.
people own theirs
Right.
and just living that out.
Well, it's my word that I live so much of my life around is sovereignty, right? So I just came up with a book called The Sovereignty
Mm,
Knot. And it's exactly what you just described. It's that sense of knowing yourself, knowing what story it is you're here to live, knowing what matters to you. And it's that sense of maturity. I love that you use that word because it's not that like, I've got mine, I'm going to the beach. Like,
right,
it's the opposite of that. It's that sense of grounding into the self, grounding into the earth
right,
beneath your feet, grounding into understanding what your lineage is and understanding how that informs you or doesn't. And then
right,
deciding these are the stories and the myths that matter to me. This is the story I'm going to live in order to serve, in order to help other
right,
people understand, hey, this is my sovereign story. I'm going to empower you to
right,
live yours, whether it's overtly in,
right,
my work, or it's that sense of in our way of being and our way of going through the world, we allow others
right,
to find themselves and be themselves.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk for hours on this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
as I mentioned before, I have other hours of shows
You
that
do.
we can be on, and I think they'll definitely come up. But you've made a wonderful point right there. Is there anything else that's come out in this conversation that you want to leave everyone with?
I mean, I'm deeply grateful to you for your work. This idea of one word is very resonant with mine. Um, I do a I do a project called Seven Magic Words. I have coming up on June 15th, and it's a week-long challenge to find a series of magic words that most resonate and mean something to you. I do some prompts. It's like a daily email series. So if people are feeling excited by this and are hopefully inspired obviously by your daily words and want to find some of their own, there might be some interesting parallels between this work and what I'm doing. So I'd
Okay.
invite people to check that out at my website.
Right, and that's so I have your website up for people to go to that, and I really appreciate that. Little did I know where Go was going to take us, right?
Exactly, exactly. And it's fascinating. So what do you have? You have ready and race and go all in one day. The
I know, right?
richness of the English language, and knowing certainly that race is a very different conversation today for you with Kara and in
Right,
general, but it's just that multiplicity of all the ways we can play with our words and keep
right,
going deeper with each other. I so
right,
appreciate that and what you're
right.
doing here.
Well, thank you very much. I would love for you I guess, sit in the green room for a moment if you
Sure.
can, and we'll say our
Yes.
goodbyes from there. But
Perfect.
thank you very much for
Thank
this
you.
conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh boy, I'm still learning how to do a couple things so it looks the way I want it. But no, thank you for having that conversation with me, and the question of our goings. Where is where are you going? Where what does go mean to you? I love to read in the comments later, and just seeing how that's showing up in your life. There is there's a big world out there, and and you're a part of it for a reason. And I can't tell you what that reason is. I sometimes I struggle with that for myself. Is that what does little old me have to say in this big old world? But the more that I recognize that balance of my smallness and my bigness, and my commitment to just showing up in all of this, my goings will come. There was one thing that I forgot to mention within my celebration, and I I don't know if I need a producer, or I need somebody, I need a hype man, or or something like that, or just somebody to remind me, is that in honor of the 50 episodes, I'm having a 50 celebration. And so this is what it is in my giveaway, is that the first 50 people that purchase the bundle of the U journal and the U cards, I will throw in the first book of the series, the Beyond the Shell, the no, Finding You Beyond What Protects You, the first book, the Finding You Beyond What Protects You. So I'll include that in the bundle. So if you can go to iamwilliambrown.com, and get the journal, and the U card bundle, I'll throw in the book to the first 50 people, as a gift, and just put in the notes, congratulations on the 50, and I'll know that you want the book. I think it's really, the more that we know who we are, the more that we can show up as ourselves, and the more that the world will get the benefit of us being here. As I mentioned before, there is two other conversations that I'm having today, one at 5 on race, and one at 8 on ready. And I invite you to be in both of those conversations. The world wants you, the world needs you, and the world is waiting for you. So go be you. Thank you very much, and I'll see you later today.